Hello everyone, we will talk about all of ReactJS. We will begin with what is ReactJS, who use ReactJS, then we will see features of ReactJS, core concept of ReactJS, and we will look at prerequisites of ReactJS. Let's go ahead and begin with what is ReactJS. ReactJS is a JavaScript library developed by Facebook for building interactive user interface for web and mobile applications. It is an open source. Any user can access the source code, modify it, and enhance it. In Model View Controller architecture, React is a view, which is the user interface of the application, which is responsible of how the application looks and feels. Moving on and see some applications that use React, such as Facebook, Uber, Discord, Instagram, Skype, and so on. Let's explore some of the core features of ReactJS. As we see here in the picture, some of the features of ReactJS: JSX, performance, virtual DOM, components, one-way data binding. Let's understand these features in details. JSX stands for JavaScript XML, which is the JavaScript syntax extension, combination of HTML and JavaScript. You can embed a JavaScript object in HTML element. Let's consider here small examples. As we can see here, const symbol indicate JavaScript notation, h1 tag indicate for HTML, and the semicolon indicate the JavaScript. Semicolon, it is not mandatory, but it's better to include it. In the second example here, we use a curly bracket to pass a variable and a function for adding JavaScript logic directly to HTML. Moving on for the next feature, virtual DOM. DOM stands for Document Object Model, which is the way to represent web page in a structured hierarchical as a tree, and each node is an object. Usually, JavaScript framework updates the whole DOM at once, which makes the web application slow. React uses virtual DOM, which is exactly a copy of the real DOM generated by the browser. Look at the picture here and see when this state of this object have changed, virtual DOM is compared with previous state, and then React get to know which object have changed. Then real DOM update only this object instead of updating all the objects. This makes application faster and no loss of memory. The next feature is one-way data binding and directional data flow. That means one direction. Data or properties transferred from top to the bottom, from the parent component to child component. That means drilling. This keeps everything modular and fast. Coming to the next feature, which is performance. As we discussed earlier, React uses virtual DOM and update only the modified parts, so that will improve application performance and make it faster. Also, multiple components improve development time, which improves performance. Let's go on and explain some of the core concepts of ReactJS: components, props, state. Components. Everything is a component in React. Components are building block of any React application. React divided the user interface into reusable pieces of code as a component. Component can be reused multiple times across the application. Let's see here some example of Instagram web page. Web page divided into several components. Each component has its own properties and functions. We have search component, profile description component, stories component, post list component, single post component that make code easier to debug. And now let's see what is the props. Props are short for properties. If you want to pass data from one component to another component, from the parent component to child component, you can pass it as props. You can pass it as a props pass to component as we declare attribute for HTML tag. As we see here, we can pass it as function parameter, then we can use it in the child component. The next concept is state. A state of component is an object that holds the data. Every time change the data of the object, the component will be re-rendered in the screen. Moving on to the last topic, prerequisites. Something should we know before actually start working in React. You should be familiar with the programming concepts like functions, object, array, and classes, and knowledge of HTML, CSS. You should have knowledge of JavaScript. That's it. Thank you for your listening. I hope it was useful for you and you